everybody, it has finally come. Lady Midnight, the newest book in Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter series, has been released. It is the first book in the new Dark Artifices series, and I was lucky enough to have been sent an advanced reader's copy of the book by Simon Schuster. So I'm so happy to finally be able to speak to y'all about this book because it was incredible and everything I could have hoped for and more. Now, if you have not read the Infernal Devices series, the Mortal Instruments series, the Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, it's really important that you try and get through all of those before you read this book because you will be spoiled for those other books and you won't enjoy them as much if you jump into Lady Midnight and you don't know what's going on because of all these facts that are being constantly dropped. Now, there are definitely going to be spoilers in this review. I will start light with them and they will get heavier as this review goes on. If you have not read the book, I suggest that you turn this video off and come back and watch it after you've read it. I just don't want to spoil it for anyone. Lady Midnight starts off 5 years after the Dark War. Emma and Julian have spent these years strengthening their bond as parabatai, and Julian has been raising all of his brothers and sisters just like they're his own children. It's a very sad situation that they are still in. The eldest, Blackthorn, Helen, is still stuck on Wrangel Island with Aileen and has not been allowed back yet. Mark is still stuck with the Wild Hunt, and so everything falls on Julian. He even has to run the Institute because his uncle Arthur is crazy and can't even stay aware of his surroundings and what's going on half of the time. Emma, she has a lot of issues going down. I feel really bad for her throughout the whole book. She is still trying to figure out who killed her parents. If you've read City of Heavenly Fire, you'll remember how her parents were murdered and the Clave put it off as being done by Sebastian. And she has to this day known it was not Sebastian. Emma spends this entire book trying to figure out who has killed her parents, and it's just sad because she has a whole closet full of evidence she has gathered over the years trying to figure out who did this to her parents and why. Emma has just put herself through so much to become one of the best Shadowhunters ever. And she has. She is amazing. But she is a very damaged character, and because of the way her and Julian grew up together and the sad things that they went through together, their relationship is very not parabatai-like how it should be. And they are falling in love and it's not right because parabatai aren't meant to be in love. We're even shown a scene, a flashback scene after they became parabatai where Julian is torn and upset and he just barges out of the party hall and Emma has no idea why. I would love to know what would have happened with them if the Dark War hadn't happened and turned their lives upside down. In the prologue, we're introduced to a couple of really colorful characters, and it's a father and son, Johnny Rook and Kit Rook. Kit's father is a very shady character known as Johnny Rook the Crook, and he basically finds out secrets and stuff and sells them to anyone that wants to pay him. And that is when we see Emma for the first time in the book. She is with another Shadowhunter, Cameron Ashdown, who she is dating at the time. They're trying to get some information about some murders going on and stuff. And Johnny even sends them to a location where a body is going to be dropped. This is a really interesting part of the entire book. Johnny is such an important character. I will get back to that a little later on. I'm just really excited to talk about him. So after this, we are shown a scene where Emma is looking for this body dump with another new Shadowhunter, Cristina Mendoza Rosales. She is from the Mexico City Institute and staying at the Los Angeles one for about a year. She had a lot of bad drama that went down and she just needed to get away for a while. I love this character. She is so cool and I just would really love to see her on screen one day as well. She's just that cool. Now, back to this whole situation with the body. They do find it, and it is covered in markings just like her parents and in the same state. And the Silent Brothers come, and a lot of stuff goes down. And yeah, it's sad that the Silent Brothers just came and took over and stuff, but Emma gets things done. She gets things done. and gets her due. Her and Christina have photos of the body, so things are cool. I found it a very nice choice that Cassie decided to start the book off where it was mainly focused on Emma, and then Julian entered a little later on. Julian and his family are far away visiting some great aunt or whatever, and when they get back, a lot of craziness goes down. I mean, everything hits the fan. We have the Wild Hunt arrive, and they offer Mark back to the Blackthorns if they can find who is killing all of these people, because some of the victims are a fairy. They have about 3 weeks to get this done, and if they don't, Mark is going to be taken back. Now, when the hood was drawn back and we were first shown Mark after all these years, my heart broke. He was just not in a great state, and it took a lot of convincing for him to even believe he wasn't being tortured and that he was really among his family again. Some other interesting things I found about Mark in this book that I just loved. He had a relationship with Prince Kieran, who was the son of the Unseelie King. They spent many years together in the Wild Hunt, and their bond is very strong, and it is that much more heartbreaking when it is strained throughout this book. Another thing that killed me about Mark, he was tortured by the fairy courts with carved runes into his back. He was terrified of steles for the longest time in this whole story, and I just, yeah, no, not cool. No, don't hurt Mark. Poor Mark. I love Mark. I think he was honestly one of my favorite characters in this entire book. Now, throughout this whole investigation, a lot of stuff goes down. They find out that there are a bunch of followers of this Guardian at the Midnight Theater. It's a place in Los Angeles where a lot of half downworlders gather and just take care of each other and try to gain power and stuff. And it is so horrible. It is a really bad thing because it is all false. Everything they are told is false. They are being deceived by the warlock Malcolm Fade, who is the High Warlock of Los Angeles and supposed to be good. He's a friend of Magnus and Tessa and everybody, and he acts as a friend to everyone in the Los Angeles Institute, to all the Blackthorns, and I was just devastated when he betrayed all of them. His reason for this is very understandable, partially, but not fully. He was in love with a Shadowhunter girl way back before the Accords. She was a Blackthorn, and when her family found out that she was planning to give up being a Nephilim to go and be with Malcolm, they put out the lie that Annabelle had become an Iron Sister, and that was why she disappeared. Turns out they walled her up and just let her die, and it messed up the whole Blackthorn family for a while. One thing I found that was just so cool about this whole situation, Cassandra Clare found a way to input Edgar Allan Poe's poem Annabelle Lee and incorporate it with the entire story. It was so great, and I loved it. I loved it so much. Now, I'm going to talk about a couple of scenes in this entire book that really stood out to me that I just have to mention. They were that important. One thing that was incredible to read and gave me chills was the scene where Mark got in trouble with the Wild Hunt, with Gwen in the Wild Hunt, when he gave away a secret about Gwen and his weakness to Christina. Him and Christina have become kind of close, and Mark has started to kind of crush on her, but of course Diego comes in the way of that. I'll get back to Diego in a minute. But basically, Mark is supposed to be whipped by the Hunt, and when they arrive to punish him, Julian decides to take the punishment for him. And then as Julian is being whipped, he gets whipped a couple of times. Emma steps in and takes the lashes herself. I could not stand the scene. It hurt my heart, not just for the pain that Emma was going through, but the betrayal Mark was feeling because Kieran told on him to the Hunt and Olive Fairy. After all of this, when Emma is healing later on after getting a lot of Arazzis and stuff, we have things go insane. Now, another scene I really need to speak about is the scene where we are introduced to Diego. He is the one that broke Christina's heart, one of the reasons that she left Mexico City, and the other reason was because her so-called best friend Jamie, which is Diego's brother, who was supposed to be her parabatai, wasn't a true friend and just really wanted to have this whole ruse going on to where his brother would marry her, he would become her parabatai, and they would take over the institute down there. When we meet Diego, perfect Diego as Christina has referred to him, he's not quite who we expect. He's not a bad guy. He's actually a good guy. He's a member of the Shalamans. This is something new that was introduced in this book that I really loved. It's a bunch of shadow hunters that outside of the clave study and go and investigate things like stuff with the fairies that are not part of the Accords now. It's a very fun new thing that I'm excited to learn more about. So when we meet Diego, Christina and Emma are tracking this guy, Sterling. He's part werewolf or whatever, and he has been chosen in the lottery at the Midnight Theater to be the next one to be killed or to kill. They think he is in danger, so they are protecting him, and they think they're going to find the Guardian by tracking him. Turns out it's either kill or be killed. He's supposed to kill someone, and then once he's done this, he's gonna gain all these powers and whatever wish he desires. Yeah, no, he's not. We also find out at this point, when Diego appears, that he is the one earlier on in the book that shot Julian with a poisoned arrow, which was given to him by Johnny Rook. Now, in this scene, when they meet Diego and he explains things and everything going down, we find out he's really only down there and has stayed down there because Christina's down there and he still loves her and wants to protect her. He hasn't even reported this to the clave. Another thing that I think I need to mention is that when Julian was shot by that arrow by Diego, he should have died. It was poisoned with belladonna, mass amounts of belladonna, and Emma Zarazzi, after being applied, I don't even remember how many times, finally saved his life. It shouldn't have saved his life. Not even a normal rune should have saved his life. I'm gonna get back to this once again because we found out something big about the parabatai bond in this book that is completely shocking. When Emma, Christina, and Diego go back to the Institute, they arrive to chaos. A bunch of the followers are surrounding the Institute and demanding Sterling to be turned over. Well, after a bunch of fighting and Malcolm acting like he's on the side of the shadow hunters and everything, we still don't know at this point why the hands of all these people are being acquired, but it all makes sense later on. After all of this has gone down, we have all of them head back into the Institute and they're trying to figure out what's going on, and a little later on they find out that Malcolm has been the one all along behind everything, and something horrible happens. I screamed when this happened. Malcolm Fade abducts Tabby. He wants to kill Tabby in the final ritual to bring his love back. So at this point, all of them are trying to figure out how to get Tabby back, and after Drew has told them that Malcolm took Tabby, she gives an envelope to Julian, and when he reads it aloud, a burst of dark magic explodes out and creates a blackout and makes them unable to call the Clave or the Silent Brothers for help. So after that, we see Kieran come in through the roof on Windspear, his fairy steed, and he helps them with getting Tabby back. Now, when they arrive at the convergence site and they're trying to get him back, they end up having to use Windspear to get through the boundary to get at Tabby because no shadow hunter or mortal can get through this boundary. After Tabby has been rescued and things are looking a little better, we see the big showdown happen between Emma and Malcolm. She finally asks him why he killed her parents and finds out when he killed her parents, they were just there at the time. He took advantage of the Dark War, and when the Institute was torn apart after Sebastian and everyone, he broke into the library and took a black book of dark magic so he could start all his necromancy stuff. And the reason it took him so long to get the spells right and everything was that the Unseelie King, when he gave him the instructions to do this whole spell, it was in fairy talk and he had to decipher it. but he had only deciphered a bit of it at this point, and he decided to test it out on Emma's parents. So they were just this sacrifice. Their death was for no reason, and it's horrible. It's so, so horrible. Finally, towards the end of their fight, when we think Emma's about to be killed by Malcolm, her endurance rune given to her by Julian somehow saves her from all of the dark magic being shot at her, and then she runs Malcolm through with Cortana, and it is awesome. While I feel bad for what Malcolm went through, what he did was so wrong. I mean, look at the ritual alone and what the requirements were. He had to make murderers out of people and then take the hands of all these murderers and create hands of glory, which would help him in this whole spell. He's insane. I don't want to even imagine what would happen or what will happen to Magnus when he loses Alec one day. I would hope he would not become like Malcolm. It would break my heart if Cassie made him become like Malcolm. One more thing that I loved in this final battle was when Diana Rayburn, their tutor, arrived and challenged Malcolm and tried to get Tabby back but failed. I think she's a good person, but she is so secretive, so we never know exactly what's going on through her head. She has been helping them though behind the scenes throughout the whole book. We didn't know that at first, but she finally explains it to the Blackthorns and Emma later on and says she was consulting with Katarina Loss and all of this about Annabelle Lee, trying to get the truth of everything, and that's how she found out about Malcolm. At the end of the book, when they finally get back to the Institute, a lot of incredible things happen all at once. Clary, Jace, Magnus, and Robert Lightwood arrive, and we find out so many cool things right at that moment that made me squeal with joy. I know I am not the only one that did this, because we find out at this moment that they had left Simon and Izzy's engagement party. Simon and Izzy are engaged to be married, and I just can't even. I hope there's a little short story written about their wedding, because please, Cassie, do this. We need this. Now, on a serious note, when Robert decides to question Arthur and Julian about what went down, Arthur has been dosed unknowingly by that potion Julian has been giving him for the longest time that will give him bouts of clarity, and he's able to answer some questions with the help of Julian, and then Julian kind of takes over and explains what all has been going down, and Robert seems to buy it. Julian lies a bit though. He fibs quite a bit, and he makes it seem like Ansel Nightshade, the vampire leader of Los Angeles, has been using dark magic to sell a bunch of pizza. I thought it was hilarious. Magnus even went along with the story and helped him out, and I hope Julian can set things right in the next book for all of this, because that's just, yeah, throwing someone under the bus like that is not cool. Julian is not how I expected him to be, and I was pretty shocked when I saw how he was, and just like Kieran said, Julian is ruthless. He will do anything to keep his family together. So after Robert is okay with all of this and everything seems okay for Mark to stay and all of that, and they leave, before they leave, Jace tells Julian that they will always have friends in New York, and if they ever need help, to call on them because they will never abandon them. In the last couple chapters of this book, I cannot even explain how shocked and excited and how many emotions in general I was feeling. After everything settles down and things look to be getting a bit better, we see Julian and Emma start to have a talk, and Julian wants to run away with Emma and stuff one day and be together, but Emma's just not having it. She has been warned by Malcolm that there is a reason parabatai aren't meant to love each other. Already the consequences are really bad. Emma and Julian have already slept together, and Emma even seemed to hear Julian's voice in her head in the big final fight. What we find out about all this, which is told to Emma by Jim, parabatai eventually, if they love each other like that and are too close, they eventually develop magical powers. Their runes become more powerful. They become like warlocks and eventually destroy everyone they love around them and eventually die. So yeah, Emma is scared off by this and seems to have some sense knocked into her and decides to break Julian's heart the only way she can think to do it, and that is by dating Mark. This is really sad. I feel so bad for Julian, but it makes sense, and I'm excited to see how things go down with that. When she asked Mark to fake date her at the end of the book, he asked her, why lie? So now I am very impatient to find out if she is going to fall in love with Mark as well, and that if they're gonna make a big love triangle thing. Hopefully not, but hopefully everything eventually becomes right for everyone like things did in the Mortal Instruments. Now, there is one more thing I just have to bring up because it is a big scene, and I decided to leave it for the end of this for a very specific reason. After Emma has a talk with Julian and he thinks that they're gonna be together and all this stuff before she breaks up with him, we see her get a text, and it is from Kit Rook, and he is asking for her help. Well, when she arrives at his house, she finds that Johnny Rook has been killed, torn to pieces by mantid demons, and Kit is fighting like no mundane should be able to fight. So as she is killing a bunch of these demons, Jim and Tessa show up. Jim then starts fighting alongside Emma, and Tessa goes up to Kit and addresses Kit as Christopher Herondale. He is a lost Herondale, you guys. I screamed so loud that I think I scared my dog when this happened. For those of you that have read Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, Simon was told a story about Tobias Herondale, who was a coward, and when the Clave couldn't mete out justice on him, they killed his pregnant wife. Now, when his wife was killed, Katerina Loss found a way to save the child, spirit it away, and hide its existence for its entire life in several generations. And now we have found one of those descendants, and it is Christopher Herondale, and I'm so excited, and I just want to dance because I'm so excited. Another Herondale, you guys, another Herondale. It's exciting, and he has so much snark in him, and I think him and Tiberius are going to be very tight later on in the Dark Artifices series. I see that happening, kind of. I could be wrong, but I really think this is going to happen and even be a very good thing for Tiberius because he has some issues with human interaction. He interacts in a very different way with others and sees the world in a different way. He doesn't even like to meet the eyes of other people. He just kind of glances at them but doesn't look them in the eyes. He just doesn't like doing that. And I think being friends with Kit, Christopher Herondale, might change things for him, and hopefully we will see a whole nother side of Tiberius later in these books. I am so excited about this. I love this book, and it is definitely now one of my favorite books by Cassie and of the entire Shadowhunter series. It doesn't beat out the Infernal Devices for me, but that's just me. But it comes very close. It is so amazing, and I cannot wait to read it again. I hope y'all enjoyed this review. Continue to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.